Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Geordie, and welcome back to F1 23 My Team Career Mode for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. This is a track that we failed miserably at last year, but hopefully we do a lot better this season. But here we go. Our last episode, if you missed it, you have to go check it out. P1 in China, but we fought hard for it. SAINZ is chasing us pretty closely in the championship, and I'm pretty sure Max Verstappen will be looking for vengeance after his engine failure in China. So he's going to be very dangerous. Of course, he's going to have the most fresh car on the grid, providing he doesn't run into any more issues. And so we need to just make sure we're on the top of our game for this one. We're going to go right into the personnel facilities, though. I want to improve the simulator even more. I really want to get Drogovic's overall as high as I possibly can and try and push him as much as I can towards the points. We've got a few parts arriving pretty soon, and we actually do get the rear wing upper flap for the aerodynamics, but the engine cover fails, unfortunately. So we're going to have to redevelop that. So I guess the good thing in terms of the long run is that we are 100% getting that part. There's no way it's going to fail a second time, and so we don't really have to worry as much about it. So yeah, it does suck that, you know, it's failed for now, but towards the end of the season it might prove to be very, very, very valuable. I hope to try and play the long game in terms of some of our engine parts, because it proved to be quite instrumental to us actually retaining was it 7? P6? I think it was P7. P7 in the championship last season. It was very instrumental towards the end of the season, where AI engine wear began to, take a toll, and we managed to get an advantage over that. So, yeah, we're going to focus on that again. Focus on trying to get, try and outsmart the AI. Outsmart the other drivers in terms of our engine wear. There was a department, situation there. Obviously, I'm going to do anything to get Drogovic's overall up as high as possible. And as you can see, we actually have a new simulator. This looks awesome. Wow, it actually has the livery of our car as well. That looks so cool. Wow. Honestly, it looks like something straight out of a spaceship. That looks really cool. I like that. But yes, we have Drogovic's overall at 83. His focus is 92. Like, he's really got to start stepping it up, you know? He's had nothing but 21st place finishes all season. Which, by the way, well, barring one or two races, but still, that's really bad. That's last place, essentially. Yes, there are 22 cars on the grid, but that's basically saying, like, that's only because, like, Albon and Verstappen have had DNFs, you know? So it just really isn't impressive at all. And I'm really hoping he steps up his game, because, yeah, his seat's under fire now, you know? He lost it last season due to a little, I wouldn't say glitch, but something that's a bit silly in terms of how the career mode works. But this season he's legitimately going to lose it because he's not doing good enough, and we're now in a position where we can, get better teammates now. And we're getting closer and closer towards AlphaTauri and Williams Racing, especially with the new major parts on the way. Yeah. We're going to be really improving and moving our car up this ladder. Mercedes have had some big gains as of late. Of course, Mercedes, their car this season started off very poorly, to the point that only one of their drivers was able to get into the points at a time. Really, really bad for them. But they are now the third best car on the grid, so they've had some really amazing upgrades coming through as we now prepare to do our first lap here of Baku. And this time I actually did a lot of testing in terms of the setup, and I'm pretty sure we have the best setup possible that we can do with this car. And so now we go into Q1, going into qualifying for our one lap. And as you can see, I actually forgot to replace one of the parts. I completely we needed to replace 3 parts going into this one. I can't remember which ones they were, but I've only done 2 of them. So the turbocharger is remaining worn, so that's going to be a bit of trouble, and I can't replace that part without having to start at the back of the grid. And since this is a sprint weekend, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. So that's something I'm not going to do. I do not want to lose. I do not want to start at the back at the grid on a sprint weekend. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do qualifying and the sprint race on with the turbocharger, and depending on with the worn turbocharger, and depending on how things go, we'll see if we have to put in a new one for the race on Sunday. But yeah, so far bit of a sloppy lap, especially going into the castle section. As you can see, drifting into this corner, this turn, not really good. I looked at the parts there, like that is not down to turbocharger, that's just down to me still getting used to this track. I will say this, F123 is definitely more challenging than F1 2019 and 2020 ever were, to be honest. I don't really remember those games being particularly difficult with these tracks, but it's definitely a lot more difficult with these newer cars. Of course, 2019 and 2020 had more or less the same sort of spec, just improvements. But 23, of course, compared to those games, like, is a whole different, like, you know, regulation change, whole different cars. So, yeah, really not the best at this game right now. But yeah, honestly, some other people really struggled as well. And Drugovic is P20, but Verstappen was P13, or was it P11? I don't know, but Verstappen was pretty close to us. He was right next to us on the timing sheet, so I'm not going to be too worried about that. But then again, you know, we'll have to see what happens. But we do set a pretty decent time in Q2. Not really, but we do improve on it anyway, enough to get into Q3. Yeah, I thought we'd speed through Q2. No real point in, like, really focusing on Q2 on those laps. You know we're going to get into Q3 every time, and if we don't, then I'll include it in the episode. But yeah, we're pretty close to Verstappen and SAINZ, which is a pretty decent sign as we now go into our one and only lap of Q3 here. Gasly's there in the Alpine. You know, the Alpines, you know, they make it there here, and they make it to Q3 here and there. That's good to see them there. But both Mercedes cars are now in Q3. So, yeah, that's definitely going to make things a little bit more difficult in terms of our title fight. Of course, we are fighting for the championship. I don't know if that was obvious already, given the fact that, you know, we have 2 P1 finishes, and we're hoping for a decent finish here. We'll have to see, though, because yeah, I don't really feel the most comfortable around this track, and P8 was the highest we've gotten so far, so we don't seem to be the fastest around this track at all. And I think that might also come down to the powertrain. We are, you know, we're using the Renault engine, but it also comes down to our own engine upgrades, so not the greatest. And that was a very sloppy lap, so much so I'm not even going to show you the rest of it. P10, so a really difficult start for us through qualifying here, but at least we made it to Q3, and anything's better than last season. But to be honest, we really need to keep an eye on this now, because yes, I did say Verstappen has the most fresh car now, but this is a time of the season where if Verstappen has the most fresh car, we need to keep up with him, like at the very least finishing behind him in P2, you know. It's going to be very difficult, but of course now we can afford to redevelop the engine cover for the chassis. Of course, we're a bit hard done by, of course, because we've got a bunch of new upgrades going into the end of Season 1 that all got removed as part of the regulation change. I really wish that wasn't a thing, because, you know, how was I supposed to know that those parts were part of the regulation change? It just made all the upgrades we made towards the end of Season 1 redundant, useless. We're still yet to redevelop the engine, the powertrain rotor speed thingy. I wonder if that will have a chance of failing or if we can get it done straight away because we've already had it done before. I don't know, but in terms of this durability thing, we're going to go and upgrade the gearbox reliability testing. Major upgrade, and it's really good to see us closer to the grid in durability compared to Season 1. But anyway, let's get down to the grid for the sprint.
SAINZ, Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton, Gasly, the owner-driver, Russell, Teo Porcher, Magnussen, Ocon, Tsunoda, Albon, Joe, Hulkenberg, Liam Lawson, Drugovich, Sargent, and Nick de Vries rounds off the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
Okay, we've got that relief of having points on the board finally, so let's keep that form up and get another top 10 finish today, please.
Well, obviously, we are going to start with the soft strategy. It's a sprint race. What other tyres are we going to use? Maybe on other tracks it might be better to use mediums, but that would be like Qatar or something. But anyway, we're going up to 5 red lights to start off the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the sprint race anyway. Here we go. Pretty good start from pretty much everybody, but everybody has made a massive gap. There was a massive gap between everybody fighting there, and we capitalized on that perfectly as we now look to overtake Sergio Perez for P5 as well. And we managed to obviously get a better getaway because obviously we're on a better compound of tyres as we now look to set after Carlos Sainz, our main rival in the championship. So hopefully he doesn't overtake Piastri in P3 neither. We want to be as close to Sainz as possible, and I'm pretty sure we could at least try to catch up with him as we now go through here. Sergio Perez is behind us, but I'm not too worried about that as of right now because he's on mediums for this first lap. So if he manages to keep up with us, then we're going to have a bit of a problem. But, you know, if not, then we're safe. And P5 really isn't that bad at all. But, of course, you have to factor in the fact that we won't be able to start where we finish here in the sprint race because, yeah, we're going to be taking an engine penalty. A grid penalty, sorry, for replacing our turbocharger at the end of this. So, yeah, that's pretty sad, but let's just get on with it, get as many points as possible, and try to get within the points in the main race. So, you know, we could gain as many points as possible, and of course, like, stick as close to Sainz as possible. There is a chance we might get knocked off the lead in the championship, but who knows? We'll have to see what happens. Anything can happen in Formula 1. So, yeah, as we go down this straight, Sainz is actually pulling away from us, which makes sense. He's in the faster car, and, yeah, we'll just have to rely on the corners as we now finish up lap 1. It's time to set off after Carlos Sainz, but of course we're going to skip ahead to the final lap. We haven't really managed to get that close. Actually, it's gotten pretty bad. He's managed to overtake Oscar Piastri. So, yeah, I did try, of course, but there was no point showing you all that race because nothing's really happened. We pulled away from people behind us at the very least, but that's pretty much all we've managed to do. And I'm guaranteeing that's because of Perez fighting everyone. He's actually fallen back in the grid. He's gone down to P9, I think, because he went on those mediums. So, yeah, it is a bit of a shame that we were unable to catch up to Sainz, of course. And I think Sainz actually managed to get to P2 in the end. So, yeah, that's a really, really not a good sign for us at all. P5 for us, but Carlos Sainz managed to snatch P2. Managed to beat both McLarens. We may have got driver of the day for 5 overtakes at the beginning, but yeah, we gained 4 points compared to Sainz's 7. Really not good as we look at these standings now. Sainz is only 4 points behind us, so yeah, not a good sign going into the Grand Prix. But of course, we're going to fight with all we've got for this. So without further ado, we're going to go to the R&D screen, or to the vehicle screen, to replace this turbocharger. And of course, this is where we now start at the back of the grid, unfortunately. But anyway, without further ado, let's go to the grid for the main race.
This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and Lance Stroll. Let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku City Circuit then, it's an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position. And Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Perez, Gasly, Russell, Ocon, Sainz, Teo Porcher, Tsunoda, Albon, Joe, Liam Lawson, Drugovich, Hulkenberg, Sargent, De Vries, Magnussen, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Joining me for today's race once again is Anthony Davidson. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? And it's great to have the company of Anthony Davidson up here in the commentary box, and a great win for them last time out. What goes into a winning run like that?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Well. Carlos Sainz is taking a grid penalty. He will be starting in P11. So, yeah, looks like AI Engineware might be coming into play like later on in the season if they're replacing their parts this early, you know. So, yeah, this is going to be our strategy here. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with the soft tyres. The original plan is to go to lap 7, but we might be pitting as early as lap 6. I don't know, but going on to hards is the definite option, as we always try to go for the undercut here. So, yeah, we're going to go with that as we now go onto the formation lap once again at the back of the grid. This isn't going to be like Brazil, though, at least I don't think so. Of course, in Brazil, AI Engineware was a thing, and we obviously started at the back of the grid. But that race was amazing. We were able to get amazing overtakes, and that is a track that really smiles upon overtakes, at least in the game. Baku, on the other hand, does not really. I think there's a couple of corners, a couple of straights where you could do that, and then the rest of the track, you've just got to bide your time. So, yeah. We're going to line up at the grid now. My game actually crashed, so I had to redo that whole cutscene, and that's why all the cars have moved, but whatever. It doesn't matter regardless, as we now start. Nick De Vries has had a terrible start, and we once again managed to get into a little gap here. Wow, what a start for us. Almost as good, if not better, than our sprint race start, as we now look to try and get past Alexander Albon. Of course, we're going with an aggressive strategy here, with the only one out there on soft tyres at the beginning of this race, as we look to see Albon having a look to see if he can overtake Guan Yu Zhou. Of course, I had to dodge Albon a little bit there. I outbraked myself a little bit. But yeah, this is a really good start for us. Hulkenberg is poking his nose in a little bit there, so we might have to watch out for him, of course. But this is a really good start. This is exactly what we needed in terms of the race, as we now try and just really see where we can make these overtakes. But it's really going to be, like I said, we just got to bide our time until the main straight. So yeah, just take the time. Of course, Guan Yu Zhou is going to be really easy to overtake. He's only on hard tyres while we're on soft. So if we can get past Albon, then Guan Yu Zhou is going to be easy pickings as well. and we get into P15 quite easily. And as you can see over there, Felipe Drugovic has had a pretty good start. He's in P14, so good for him. But you know, like, is he going to stay anywhere near there? I doubt it. You know, for some reason, and I complain about this every time, we cannot ever edit our teammates' pit strategy, and that's what ruins these F2 guys. Like, their pit strategy is horrendous. Whatever though, we are looking to overtake Alexander Albon. Look at how quick we're going down this straight here with the slipstream and the ERS. Imagine how much quicker we're going to go with DRS as we now slot ourselves between Zhou and Albon. And Guan Yu Zhou is going to be pretty easy to overtake, like I said as well, as we look to stick behind him. Alexander Albon is already losing time on us. Of course, we're gaining a lot of time going through these corners because of these soft tyres. And now Guan Yu Zhou is anticipating an attempt at an overtake, so he's actually going to try and give us space. And obviously we're going to have a much better getaway. He barely defended that one, but our race, we're in a different race, quite frankly. Or who knows? I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Guan Yu Zhou just barely defended that, and we had a really clean getaway. That was honestly the cleanest overtake you'll see, as we now slot ourselves just behind our teammate Felipe Drugovic. And well, look who's there in P13. Look who didn't have a very good start. Carlos Sainz, P2 in the championship for him. It's going to be absolutely perfect if we can get in front of him. But of course, first we need to get past Drugovic. And unfortunately, Drugovic loves to fight us. If you've seen previous episodes, he doesn't fight other people. He lets other people overtake him. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe it really does come down to a horrendous pit strategy. But, yeah, I don't know, man. But, yeah, we're looking to now catch up to Drugovic, our teammate. I'm going to be using ERS down this main straight. We're not going to get DRS just yet, but we should have enough power. We're in the same car, so we're going to be draining this ERS here. I want to catch up to Drugovic before we reach the corner. I do not want to be fighting him going into the corner as we now overtake him. Going to try and give him as much space as possible. I do not want to slow him down. Teo Pourchaire is fighting with Carlos Sainz. Really good defense for him there. But of course, you'd expect that. Carlos Sainz is on hards. He's going for the long run here, Sainz. So, Sainz seems to be doing that quite a lot recently. He loves doing the long run. As we now go side by side with him. And now I'm going to squeeze him out here, try and back him up into Drugovic here, our teammate, as we now set our sights on the two Aston Martins in front of us. Getting closer and closer to the points. P13. Really good, making easy work of Carlos Sainz here, who's having a torrid race. But of course, we're on the softs, he's on the hards, so I expect nothing less there. But we've actually gained quite a lot of time there, almost a second, as we now look to overtake our former teammate Teo Pourchaire in the Aston Martin. God knows how he managed to get that the move to the Aston team, but he does have a good defense right there, as these soft tyres are now starting to wear a little bit. Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri's in P10, he's flying high. But of course he's under pressure from George Russell. Russell looking to overtake Tsunoda. We're looking to overtake Pourchaire. Two different overtakes going into this corner here as Tsunoda loses out to George Russell. And now we're looking to overtake Yuki Tsunoda, but of course we're not going to get the chance up until the main straight. So the best thing we can do is just slot ourselves behind Tsunoda and just bide our time as we now go on to this main straight. At the end of lap 4, we have overtaken Tsunoda, and now we set our sights on George Russell, just under half a second ahead. Looking to be easy pickings, but of course this is the lap where the tyres just completely, like, they died. They literally died on this lap. We lost a full second to George Russell, even being overtaken legitimately by Yuki Tsunoda as we go into the pits. So, if there was ever a time to pit, it's now. So, the soft tyres, they've done a really, really good job, but it's definitely time to pit for hards now. Let's see what the pit crew can do. Honestly, yeah, I don't really see the need to level up the pit crew that much. You know, I know it's not the fastest we can do. I know 2 seconds would be the fastest with the pit crew, but quite honestly, 2.4 seconds is great. maybe we should actually try to upgrade it to see if it makes any difference in terms of Drogovic. But yeah, in terms of ourselves, in terms of our strategy, it's looking pretty good as we now skip ahead to lap 11. We are right behind Russell once again, who's actually decided to go for a late aggressive strategy, but he's been slowed down here by the Haas of Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson has not pitted at all. He's still on those mediums, and he's so slow going around that corner that he really slowed down George Russell, and that was probably why we managed to catch up to Russell so easily on these hards, as Russell now finally does overtake Lawson. So let's see how we do on these hards. Obviously we're doing really good. We're actually into the points with that overtake, so that's lovely. That's absolutely lovely, as we now look to try and overtake Oscar Piastri. We're going to go around the outside going into turn 1, and he's going to have the slightly better getaway. Of course, these hards are going to start wearing at this point, lap 6, but he doesn't have a very good corner. I think he locked up a little bit, he may have. We made a little bit of contact at the back there, but we managed to make the overtake, a legitimate overtake there on Piastri for P7. So we're not going to be able to catch up to Lando Norris. We just don't have the pace, and quite frankly we don't have tyre wear, but we're in P7 now, and I think we could legitimately defend this pretty well. So we'll have to see what happens as we now skip ahead to lap 13. That's exactly what's happened. We're actually almost 3 seconds ahead. We have not managed to catch up to Norris, so the Mercedes cars have definitely made huge improvements, but P7 looks to be safe. But Pierre Gasly, keep an eye on that time and keep an eye on what lap we're on, because this guy, Pierre Gasly, gets some massive DRS overtakes here, and actually he is mad around this track on those mediums right now. 2.2 seconds behind me on lap 14. We skip ahead to the end of the lap, and he's right there. He's there, bro. He's about to overtake me, and I don't even think I'm going to fight him. I'll fight him a little bit, but very half-heartedly. Like, there is absolutely no point in fighting someone that quick on those mediums. He was absolutely rapid, gaining 2 seconds on 1 lap. That's insane. That's absolutely insane, and thus no point fighting him at all. Not even going to bother. So we're going to save the ERS just in case Piastri catches up, but yeah, we're going to skip ahead to the final lap now, and it's George Russell who's finally woken up on those soft tyres. He has finally woken up, gaining a lot of time here, but I don't know how worn his tyres are going to be. I know my hards are pretty worn, so it really comes down to who's the better driver at this point. George Russell, of course, has the advantage of DRS. We have the advantage of clean air, I suppose. So, yeah, it seems to be a pretty equal battle, and let's see if we can actually keep P8 here, because P8, that's 4 points. I'm going to defend it as hard as possible, because we lose out on 2 points if we fall down to P9, and those extra 2 points for P8, those 4 points that we get for P8 could prove to be instrumental in winning the championship. So I'm going to defend this as hard as possible, because this is the only thing we can fight for right now. Could we have fought higher up if we had you know, not replaced the turbocharger? I don't know. That was in its 70s at that point, in the 70% ratio, like radius. So there is absolutely no way I would have wanted to keep it on anyway. But you know, you got to ask the question. Maybe we could have fought for a podium. I don't know. I don't think so. The turbocharger is quite important to the power of the car, and we're already struggling in terms of power. So yeah, definitely my original plan of half-heartedly upgrading the powertrain this season has got to be thrown out the window if we want to fight for the championship. We really do need to start putting in some major powertrain upgrades, start focusing on that, even though we are going to have a different engine supplier for next season. But we seem to have P8 all wrapped up. George Russell was looking for that overtake, but yeah, we managed to win P8, so that is splendid. That's good. I think we'll still have the lead of the championship just because of how bad SAINZ did. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but he fell down to last. He must have had a big crash when we came out the pits. So SAINZ finished really low down. So at least we don't have to worry about him. But this man, Max Verstappen, definitely
Davidson,
someone to
how do you
worry
think they were
about.
able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Well, in other news, it's a great race for Valtteri Bottas, who gets on the podium in that McLaren, but the story of the day has got to be the upgrades that Mercedes have brought in. Lewis Hamilton, I'm pretty sure he didn't even finish in the points in the first race of the season. He is on the podium, so that's not good news. That's not good news at all for our championship, because that just adds in another championship contender, and it's the almost 8-time champion. It's the 7-time World Drivers' Champion, Lewis Hamilton, and Lando Norris is going to be there as well, so definitely something to worry about. Of course, Perez, like, look at this. There is 8 competitors. Piastri, if you want to add that in as well, because the McLaren is pretty good. That could sneak in. So yeah, 8 competitors for the Drivers' Championship, and Verstappen has a huge advantage having the fresher parts due to that DNF, so he's going to be able to make that up and then some with some victories, I'm pretty sure. Do not be surprised if Verstappen ends up winning the next race as well, but there you have it. Ferrari still on top in the Constructors, we're still P4 in the Constructors, still on top of the championship due to SAINZ absolutely bottling it in the race. I don't know what happened, it must have been a crash, but yeah, P1 for us. Felipe Drugovich gets his best result of the season with a P17. Hopefully, we start seeing a solid progression upwards for that man. But yeah, that concludes this episode of F123 My Team Career Mode. If you guys have liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all next time for the Miami Grand Prix and more F123. See you soon. Peace!